Namaste, welcome to Buddha's teaching. Today, our topic we're talking about loving kindness and compassion. In Buddha's teaching, one of the teaching is regarding the Four Great Abodes. They are what we call loving kindness or Metta, spelled M-E-T-T-A. That's a Pali word, Metta, and it's translated as loving kindness. Karuna, spelled K-A-R-U-N-A, which is compassion. Okay, so Metta, Karuna, and then Mudita. Mudita, you can spell M-U-D-I-T-A, Mudita. Mudita means joy in others' success, happy for others. When others have success, when others are happy, then we have joy in their success, in their happiness. That's Mudita. Okay, and so Mudita is a third abode, and it's the opposite of jealousy. Okay, when we have mudita, we don't have jealousy, right? Because we are happy to see others successful, rich or whatever. Okay, they are doing well, so we're happy for them. So that's mudita. And then the last one, of course, is equanimity, right? So it's Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekha. Upekha is equanimity, meanings neutral, right? You don't have any biased opinion or anything. The mind is at a neutral state, Mudita. Equanimity, Upekha. Okay, so those are the great four abodes, the great 4 points in one of Buddha's teaching, which if anyone apply this in their life, people around them would receive peace, would receive happiness, and the people around the person who practice these 4 abodes will not receive any harm, any hurtful intention from the person who practice these 4 abodes, right? These 4 great teaching lessons here. So loving kindness, or the word metta, in Pali. So in Pali language, right, the word loving kindness or metta has its roots in non-anger, right? Non-anger, which is in Pali is ahimsa. Okay, and a lot of people spell like this: A-H-U-M-S-A, ahimsa. Ahimsa is the opposite of himsa. Himsa is anger, right? So the opposite of anger is non-anger, all right? Okay, so it's anger is himsa, and then non-anger is ahimsa. And loving kindness or metta has its roots in ahimsa, or in non-anger. Okay, so it's the opposite of anger, loving kindness. And just I'm sure if you think about it a little bit, it's pretty straightforward. Okay, an angry person, right? When someone is angry, when someone is upset, okay, in that particular moment, all right, the mind is angry, right? The mind is agitated. So the mind at that point does not have loving kindness, right? These two cannot live together because the mind can be occupied by one emotion at a time. So when the person have humsa or have anger inside, so loving kindness cannot um, cannot rise. Okay, so loving kindness is the exact opposite, okay, of anger, right? So this is something that we need to understand clearly, that for all of us human beings, our mind has one emotion or one mental state at any particular moment. It cannot have two mental states at the same time. Okay, so when a person is angry, the person cannot have loving kindness at that particular moment, and vice versa. When the person has loving kindness, or has metta, then there's no anger at that particular moment in the mind. Okay, so of course there are different kinds or different levels of loving kindness. Okay, we all have loving kindness, or we have metta, so for our families, right? For our children, for our siblings, all right? So we say we have loving kindness for them, for our spouse, okay? And then the other kind of loving kindness is for others, okay? Um, at in all direction. In other words, it's a kind of loving kindness or metta that is for all. Okay. So what is the difference between these two kinds of loving kindness? These two kinds of metta that we say we have metta for our family, for our children, right? We have loving kindness for them. Okay, we love them and we take care of them, right? Okay, and we also say we have loving kindness for others. Okay, so what are the two different things? Okay, remember that for true metta or true loving kindness, okay, true loving kindness in Buddha's teaching requires a deep understanding of what that is, right? Or what it means. Okay, it's not just simple loving kindness at like let's say a shallow level or a surface level. Okay, the true metta or true loving kindness is indiscriminative. Okay, and not in another words, true metta or true loving kindness does not pick and choose who or or what, whether the person is a relative, a family, or anyone that we don't know, any nationality or not. Okay, so true loving kindness in Buddha's teaching is the loving kindness toward all. Okay, not just a small circle of families and children and friends. Okay, true loving kindness in Buddha's teaching, okay, is for all. meaning loving kindness equally to every living being. Okay, so a lot of us, we are mistaken with the loving kindness that we have toward our children, toward our family. Okay, the loving kindness that we have for our children, for our families, usually come with attachment. Okay, we are attached to them, so we automatically, like a default, we have this loving kindness toward them. Okay, but what we're not aware of most of the time, the loving kindness or the metta that we have for our children, for our family, for our spouse, they are not the true deep meaning of metta that the Buddha taught, the Buddha was talking about. Okay, because we have attachment, right? We have attachment toward our children and families, and because of that, here's the facts that now let's say we all say, all right, at the beginning we all say that we have loving kindness, all right, we have compassion toward our children and families, all right, but one thing leads to another as people grow up, as people have their opinion and talk and things like that. There are times that the children don't do according to what parents want, according to the desire. Then loving kindness sort of like disappear. Okay, now there's there's argument, there's conflicts, and all that. Okay, so what happened to the loving kindness that we have before? See, so that is why the loving kindness that we all think that we have for our families and our children, okay, it's not the true loving kindness that the Buddha talks about. The Buddha the true metta or loving kindness Buddha talks about is at a different level, okay, without attachment. So for us ordinary people, our loving kindness has attachment, right? So it's not clean, right? It's not clean, it's not clear. It has attachment, and that's why a lot of time we are mistaking with loving kindness and with just love with attachment, right? So as you can see, the true enemy of loving kindness is actually greed. Okay, because greed or desire. Okay, so again, just like I just mentioned, parents or let's say parents and children who have loving kindness for children, they have some kind of attachment, and then they have desire for their children to follow certain let's say culture, to follow certain doctrine, to follow certain tradition, to follow the parents way of thinking, the way of life and all that, right? So that is the desire, the parents' desire, or the society desire. But when when the children don't don't follow that, then there's problem, right? So desire is or it's the parents' desire or our desire. Desire is the enemy of loving kindness. Okay, because when desire is not met, then anger arises. Okay, so when desire is not met, anger arises. So the true the true opposite, the true root that is hidden behind anger is desire. Okay, so desire is the enemy, right? It's the true enemy of loving kindness. Okay, because when we have desire, of course, it's due to attachment also. So what does true loving kindness mean? Okay, how do you cultivate true loving kindness or metta? Right. So it requires a deep level of understanding. Okay, that everyone that we need to look. So a person who practice this need to first of all cultivate or practice wholesome deeds. Okay, because this is something that we offer. In another word, the metta or loving kindness is an offering. Okay, it's something that we give out. Okay, so loving kindness is a form of offering. Okay, so in order for us to offer loving kindness, we need to practice wholesome deeds, right? Giving metta, giving loving kindness. Okay, so this practice um, start with us. Okay, start from within. This practice start from within. Okay, you don't practice loving kindness with other people. You start from within. All right, you have it because it's a offering. It's a form of giving. So we have to give out. So before we give something, we have to have it first. Correct? If we don't have it, we cannot give it. Okay, so the first level or the first person who we need to offer metta or loving kindness to is ourselves. Okay, and that is very important, right? So let's say if you want to sit down and do a little meditation, okay, samadhi meditation or whatnot, and you say, let me do the loving kindness meditation, right? Offering loving kindness. So when you sit down and you breathe in and breathe out, the first person that you offer loving kindness to is yourself. Give yourself peace. Give yourself happiness, all right? Tranquility. That would be the first person that you give metta to. Okay? It would be the first person that you give loving kindness to. And after you have loving kindness or metta within, then you can offer to to outside world. But first of all, you have to have it. Okay, first and foremost, we all need to practice this. Okay, we all need to cultivate this. Okay, because remember, the opposite or the opposite of metta, of loving kindness, is anger, right? When we are angry, when you're angry, okay, the first person who gets burned is you, is ourselves. Okay, we're angry, we burn ourselves first before we speak, before we do anything at all. The fire started within. So when the fire starts within, it burns inside, and that takes that occupies the mind state, and takes away the loving kindness. Okay, so if we practice or we cultivate loving kindness, then we put out the fire. See, we give ourselves the peace of mind. So the self, ourself here, I know it's a little bit contradicting when we say ourself, the word self, right? But in this case, there is no other choice to say it or to explain it. So we have to use the word. Okay. So when you do the loving kindness meditation or offering or giving, it's the self that you give to um, um, as the first receiver. Okay. Without that, you cannot, offer it to others. Okay. So take care of your own mind before you can give it to other people. And I know it takes practice. Okay. It's loving kindness. Okay. It takes practice. It takes time. But this is something that if we want to have peace and if we want to give our peace, give our loving kindness, this is something we need to cultivate, and this is something that we need to watch within ourselves. Okay, again, everything is looking within, not without. So to cultivate that, one of the requirements to understand is about that self. Okay, because most of the time we have the self involved. Okay, so when there is self, there's attachment. Okay, there's some kind of clinging to self, such as the example I mentioned earlier, parents and children. So there's attachment. There is self, right? My children, okay, my spouse, my family. So when there is I in there, when there's my this or my that, when there's attachment, it's really hard to cultivate a true loving kindness. Okay, a true metta. True metta has no self, meaning it's beyond self. Okay, true metta is beyond self because true metta treat everybody, including this self, equally. Okay, including the self equally. That is true metta, true loving kindness. Okay, so for example, there's a little examples, a little story. So there's four people walking in the forest, right? So there's you, and let's say there are three other people. Okay, one people you don't like, right? You kind of hate that person. Another person you like, right? You like the other person, and the third person is you don't really have any opinion, no like or dislike. It's just normal. Okay, so there's four people walking in the forest. There's you, there's a person you don't like, there's a person that you like, and the person that you have no opinion about. So therefore you walking in the jungle, in the forest, and then all of a sudden there's a group of robbers, okay, happen to be in the area, and they come upon your group of four, and they capture all of you, all four of you. Okay, and then the robbers or the thief, and they threaten, they say, we have to kill one of you. Okay, uh, among the four of you, you have to pick which one that to die. Okay, we're gonna kill one of you. We have to kill one of you. Okay, so now for if for normal, for people, if you say to the robbers or say to the thief that, oh, you can kill the guy that or the person that you don't like, right? So is there metta there, or is there loving kindness? No, there's no loving kindness for the person, right? And that because you have hatred. Or now let's say if you say, oh no, that's I don't have loving, I need to practice loving kindness. So if you turn around and say tell the robber, say, okay, I'm practicing loving kindness, so go ahead and you can kill my friend. So that's still not loving kindness, right? Or you can turn around and say kill the other guy who you don't love, you don't like, or you don't dislike. Or even you say, all right, I'm practicing loving kindness. My robbers, you can kill me. Okay, it's still no loving kindness. There's no metta towards self, right? So the true answer to the question of the robbers is that there's nobody, right? True metta is that every can see that everyone, doesn't matter whether you in the or the person you don't like, or the friend you like, or the other person who you neither like or dislike. All four are the same. So the answer would be it's up to you because I have no opinion. Every single one is the same. So that would be true metta, true loving kindness. There's no biased opinion toward anyone, including self. Okay, so that's true metta, true loving kindness. Okay, and so with that, for most of us, ordinary people, right? There are people that we cannot give loving kindness to, and why is that? Well, first of all, let me tell you first the kind of people that we cannot give metta or loving kindness to. First is the people that we don't like, right? The person that you don't like, it's really difficult for you to give loving kindness, right? The person has done something wrong to you in the past, or you had issue with, or whatever, they have did bad things to you. That kind of person, whenever you come across a person, see the person, hear about the person's name or whatnot, right? Anger arises instead of loving kindness, instead of metta, right? So that's one of the person that is like impossible for most of us to offer loving kindness, right? To give metta, right? Now, the second kind of people is the people who we like a lot, okay? Our family, our spouse, boyfriend, girlfriend, all right, parents or sibling. Uh, those are the people that we can also not give loving kindness, true loving kindness or metta, because we have biased opinion, okay? We have attachment. So, but with that, because of that, most of us, we cannot give true loving kindness or metta. Now, the third kind of people that we cannot give true loving kindness or metta is ordinary people. Let's say people on the street, right? Whatnot that we don't know. You just walk along, see people. It's difficult for us to practice. How do I give loving kindness or metta to people that I don't know, right? So that that is difficult. Okay. And number four is your enemy, right? I'm talking about not just people that you don't like. I'm talking about your enemy. Okay, let's say enemy of your country, enemy of your tribe, okay, enemy of your group or whatever. There's no way that you can offer loving kindness, right, or metta to your enemy. Okay, and that is difficult, right? For most of us, it's impossible. to give loving kindness, right? To give metta to. And the next category number 5, is a person of opposite sex. Okay, it's difficult for us to offer loving kindness or metta to the person of opposite gender from us. If you are a man, it's difficult for you to offer loving kindness to a woman, and vice versa. Now, why is it that? It is because after a while, let's say if you give, you say, oh, I give loving kindness to this person, to that person, but for ordinary mind, after a while, that loving kindness that we think we have toward that person turns into desire, turns into attachment. Okay, it's not a true loving kindness. It's not a true metta. All right, it's not a true compassion, because desire arise. Okay, lust arise, and attachment arise. So that's the other kind of person that we cannot give loving kindness to, metta to. And the other category of people that we cannot give loving kindness to is dead people, which is plain, which is hopefully simple to see. How can you offer metta or loving kindness to a person who is already dead? They cannot receive your loving kindness, right? Because the person is no longer able to receive your loving kindness. Okay, so those are the 6 types of people that that most of us cannot give loving kindness or metta to. Okay, so loving kindness or metta, right, is a practice, like I mentioned earlier at the beginning, is that we cultivate. Okay, and with this practice, loving kindness is an offering. Okay, it's an offering to people around us. Okay, giving when you give them loving kindness, when you give them metta, okay, it means that you're not harming them, you're not hurting them. Okay, so of course people around you would be at peace, would have no worry by being around you, right? When you offer that, when you have loving kindness and you have true metta for the person, so the person don't have to be worried about you, because you have no ill will, no bad intention toward the person. You only have loving kindness, you only have metta toward the person, right? So that would be, and this is a great this is one of the great virtue that, especially for a leader, right? For a leader to have this, when a leader has this virtue, okay, the people around them, or the country, or the neighbors country would enjoy peace, because the leader that who is full of metta, who is full of loving kindness and compassion, would not hurt or harm others around him or her, right? Now, even though, let's say you are head of a family, it's the same thing, okay? Or head of a village, or a head of a country, it's all the same thing. This is one of the greatest virtue that a person can have, by offering this to others, okay, by offering this to others, others feel warm, others around feel safe, feel secure, not worry, not feel threatened by you, because you do not have that ill intention toward anyone around, okay, but you only have metta, compassion, you only have loving kindness toward others around, okay. So this is a great virtue to cultivate, to practice, and of course to offer something you have to have it, right? So practice that, give yourself loving kindness and compassion, okay. And now there's a lot of time people, of course, this is the same question that arise over and over again, and say that I try my best to give loving kindness and compassion to others, but you see, there's a but. See, the ego always inserts itself into the conversation, into the thinking, but that person is so on and so forth. But you can't just you see, when there's a but inserted into the thinking mind, then you have to sit back and practice this again. Say, why is there a but inserting itself? Okay, why is there a but inserting itself and prevent me from having loving kindness toward others? What is going on here? What is the culprit behind this but, behind this but that keep inserting itself into my mind, that's prevent me from offering loving kindness to certain people, to people who used to be somebody you don't like? What is it that stop me from doing that? Okay, this is something that you need to go back and listen to some of the previous lesson, okay, that we have covered, and it all has to do with the self I. Okay, there's an I that it insert itself, all right, and the self I always has a excuse of saying but this, but that. All right, the self I always want to be right, but not able to give uh, loving kindness or compassion. Okay, and of course there are other but inserting, you know, uh, um, all 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 the time. Like so, you can't just let the person keep doing this, keep doing that, right? And you have to um, give them a piece of your mind, make sure they they don't do that again and all that stuff. Okay, there's so many excuse that come up. All right, instead of using the wisdom arise from within, but the ego I most of the time resort to anger, resort to force to solve problem, to solve issue, instead of resort to loving kindness and compassion to solve problem and to solve issue. Okay, so that's a different thing. It is because there's a self I that keep inserting itself into the thinking mind. Okay, so that is the little thing that I like to share with you regarding metta, loving kindness, and a little bit of compassion in there. And hopefully this is something that you can extract a little juice out of it. Okay, a little bit at a time is good. All right. So until next time, I like to pay respect to the triple gems. I like to pay respect to the Buddha. I like to pay respect to the Dharma, and I like to pay respect to the Sangha. Namaste.